Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday morning Mortgage Coach coaching call. Everybody on this call is here to connect with America's best mortgage pros. If you're a Mortgage Coach member, you are investing because you want to be the best. You want to deliver the best service, the best value. So connect on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. And as the industry's best, guys, we got to represent the USA Today. I hope everybody is watching the game at 1 o'clock Pacific time. I know I'll be watching it with a few members of my team and family and urge everybody to support America in the World Cup. My name is Dave Savage. I'm the CEO of Mortgage Coach, very committed to helping loan officers deliver better advice. I passionately believe that mortgage advice is the ultimate competitive advantage for mortgage professionals, and that is the values that we represent, surpassing people's expectations around delivering advice and insight in the mortgage process. Everybody on this call is powered with the mobile experience so that you can deliver wow advice anywhere and everywhere. Dan Keller's in a coffee shop right now. So Dan, when I bring you into the call, you should drive a mobile experience in that coffee shop. Make sure you're wowing your borrowers, wowing realtors every chance you get with Mortgage Coach tools. So today's call, just like all our Tuesday calls, are recorded and uploaded into our YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. If you are on today's call, hopefully you got this email with all of our events scheduled for July. If you did not get this email, that means it's getting caught in your spam filter or it's going somewhere else. So make sure that you either create a Mortgage Coach contact or make sure that you give it permission so that you get emails from Mortgage Coach. Again, we've got an action-packed month. Today we're kicking it off with HAL. Next week we've got Tim Brahim and John Weller. The following week, I have David Bach, one of the nation's top financial planners, who just joined the Rec Edelman team. And I've got Phil Black, former Navy SEAL trainer, Phil Black, talking about call reluctancy. So just a massive call, and then closing out the month with two top producers out of San Diego, Sam Hansen and Bill Gaylord. So we've got just an awesome month of calls. I want to get right into today's content because it really is a special call. We're bringing in a first-time Mortgage Coach leader, HAL, and everybody's going to know who HAL is at a much deeper level in just a few minutes. Well, there's a lot of things about HAL's story that I love, because one, I'm a morning person, so I can't wait to take my morning ritual to an even higher level. The fact that he was the all-time best salesperson for Cutco knives, that's all I had to hear to go, wow, this guy is a sales stud. If anybody's ever gone through a Cutco knife sales presentation, and to think that this guy is the best of all time, that's amazing. I mean, we're talking about someone who's a very special salesperson with a very special story. So Dan Keller, you're the one, along with a good friend of yours, that introduced me to HAL, and I know that you have a friendship. I know that he's spoken for you. I know that you do a lot of sharing of his content to realtors in your local market. So Dan, why don't you do the official introduction for HAL, and let's get the party started.
I met HAL about, I'd say probably 6-8 months ago, and just hearing his story in regards to what he went through and what he's gone through and what he's currently going through with, being a best-selling author and speaker is truly inspiring. And the biggest thing with HAL is I've always been pretty proud of my morning routine. And when I met HAL, one of the first things that really allowed me to connect deep with HAL is that he actually had a formula for building a morning routine. I never had one. It was just kind of by trial and error. And so what I love most, there's a bunch of things I love about HAL, but what I love most, I would say, is the actual program for building an award-winning, successful morning routine. And you obviously got to read the book. If you haven't read the book, you've got to go buy the book. Get on Amazon and buy it, Miracle Morning. But the lifesavers portion of that book and leading up to those chapters really breaks down his morning routine. And then I just encourage you to make it your own, which I have. I've added to my morning routine as a result of his book. But there's just a lot of really good success tools. And one of the things that I've told realtors and lenders and even my wife, I don't think HAL's really discovered anything new. I think what he's taken, and he'll tell you this in the book, he's taken success principles that have been around for years and really just harnessed them and brought them all under one hood and shared how they helped him go through and overcome some obstacles. But that's why it relates so well with myself and other people that have read the book and realtors, because we're all going through the same thing. We're small business owners. We're trying to build our business. We're trying to have success both on and off the field. And that's one of the great things about the book. And where I've kind of used the book in my business, first of all, it's power-packed. For the dollar, I don't think you're going to find more valuable information for the price point, first off. So it's easy for me to go out and buy a case of these books. And Hal knows this. Through Isaac Stegman, he was my rep at Cutco. He's kind of my broker. I'm like, dude, I need another 20 books. I need another 40 books. And that's what I do. I do the whole Todd Duncan thing where I handwrite a cover letter, throw a book in a FedEx envelope, and I send it to a realtor partner that I'd love to connect with. And, it works. And the funny thing is now, Hal, you're kind of getting to be old news around up here in Seattle. I'm sending these books out, and realtors are like, hey, I've already read this book. It was a killer book, but, still love to grab coffee with you. So, he's starting the Miracle Morning movement, I think is kind of what we were calling it up here. It certainly has hit stride and it's going viral up here, but the message is just awesome. I'm so excited for the mortgage coach community to kind of hear Hal's story and leverage his story to help you grow your business and grow your life.
Cool. Dan, dude, thank you so much for your kind words, man. I really appreciate that. And to what Dan was saying about the book kind of becoming old news up there, and I just a gentleman just posted on Facebook a picture. He was at a bank in Oregon, and he saw a copy of the Miracle Morning. This was yesterday, sitting on the manager's desk, and he goes, my friend actually wrote that book. How'd you hear about it? He said, oh, this is required reading for all the managers in our company. I was like, wow, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. So. Cool. Well, Dave, was there anything else you wanted to chime in, or are you ready for me to go? All right, I'll take that.
I'm ready for you to go. Dan is a great leader in our community and well respected. So rock it out.
Rock it out. All right, guys. Let's dive in here right away. So we're going to go through this quickly. I'm going to start out with a quote from Oprah Winfrey, and this is a quote that would be considered very cliche if anyone said it, but it's Oprah, so yeah, you kind of go, if Oprah says it, it might be good. The biggest adventure you can ever take is to live the life of your dreams. If you ask most people, or you make that claim or say anything about the life of your dreams to most people, right, they'll roll their eyes and say, dude, life of my dreams, I'm just trying to survive. And if you ask anybody that's living the life of their dreams, they have a very different response. They don't think it's cliche. They don't roll their eyes. They say, absolutely 100%, I'm living my dream. And that, it's the greatest adventure that I've ever taken, right? And so for me, that's been kind of my mission for the last 10 years is how do I really live my dreams? And 10 years ago, I was a top salesperson for Cutco. I was one of the youngest that hit the Hall of Fame. And once I hit the Hall of Fame, I was like, my dream is not to sell knives, right? Like I've got this life after death story, which you guys are going to hear the whole thing here in a few minutes. But I thought my mission, I've got bigger dreams. I've got bigger goals. And so for the last 10 years, my life has been dedicated to how do I literally create the life of my dreams, right? And I wanted to be motivational, speaker, keynote speaker, if you will. At one point, I didn't know how to do that, right? There's no class for that, and just figuring it out along the way. But here's the distinction that I want to make on this. I really want you guys to get out of your, not your comfort zone, but just for the next 45 minutes that we have together, I want you to just kind of go back almost to that childlike wonder of like anything is possible, right? Anything is possible. And so what does the life of your dreams look like? And I don't mean, the life of your dreams like far, far away or like, well, I always wanted to be a rapper, a basketball player for the NBA. I'm talking about how can you take your current life and what would have to happen in your current life, your current occupation, in your current relationships, with your current, health and fitness. What would have to happen for your life as it is now to radically transform to the next level so that the life of your dreams isn't some pipe dream, but it's simply taking the life you have now and going from wherever it is on a scale of 1 to 10 to creating what I call level 10 success in every single area. So just think about that as we chat today. And this next quote, the last one I'll share here, is from Robin Sharma. The saddest thing in life is to wake up one day and realize that you could have been, done, and had so much more. And really the miracle morning is about you becoming the person that you need to be faster than you ever thought possible to create the most extraordinary results in your life and business that you want. And I'm talking about measurable results. And I'll give you an example. This is just one of hundreds of examples of people that have taken on the miracle morning, that have done the 30-day challenge, if you will. And this is one woman, Dawn Pogue. On day 30 of her miracle morning, she reported in the miracle morning community on Facebook, day number 30, I've lost 12 pounds. Just had the biggest month in my sales career. Quit smoking after smoking for almost 2 decades, and I have no desire for a cigarette. And by the way, she's now on day 180 of the miracle morning consecutively, still hasn't smoked a cigarette, has lost 30-something pounds, is having her best year in her career, on and on and on and on and on. And she said she's the happiest that she's ever been. So that's the type of results that are measurable that you can expect from the miracle morning. And let me just ask you, here's a weird question that we never really get asked. Why did you wake up this morning? And I want you to think about that for a second. Why did you wake up this morning? And really there's one of 2 general answers to that. Either you woke up because you had to, which is what roughly 95% of Americans, that's how we wake up, because we wait to wake up until we have to. We have to be somewhere, we have to do something, we have to answer to someone or take care of someone else. And most people waste their morning by hitting the snooze button over and over and over and over and over again. And most people live into that limiting belief. They believe in it. I'm a morning person or I'm not a morning person, right? As if you're either born that way or you're not born that way. But the reality is it's conditioning. You're either a morning person if you make the commitment to start waking up early. And I'm going to give you guys 5 steps to make that easier than it's ever been before we're done here today. But here's the idea. So you either wake up because you have to, or you wake up because you want to. You wake up because you know that science has proven our willpower is strongest first thing in the morning. Maybe not the first few minutes when you're still waking up, but for the first hour of your morning, our willpower is the strongest. Our mental clarity, our cognitive ability, it is the most accurate, the strongest in the morning. Are all of those things, our energy, our mental acuity and cognitive function, all our willpower, they're all kind of like a cell phone battery, right? Where a cell phone battery, throughout the entire day, what happens, right? It's drained, and going to sleep is the only way to plug back in. So in the morning, highly successful people, and I know the majority of you on this call are highly successful, but in order to take your life or your business to the next level, the argument that I'm going to make over the next 40 minutes is the single most effective way that you can take any area of your life, personally or professionally, to levels beyond what you've ever experienced before is to take your morning to that level. If you want level 10 success, create a level 10 morning, and that sets the mindset and the context to make sure that you win the day, that every day is a level 10 day. And as we all know, the only way that you achieve extraordinary success in life and in business, right, is one day at a time. But all too often, we end the day going, gosh dang it, I could have done so much more today. I did not nail the day. Whether you procrastinated, you overslept, whatever it is. So we're going to talk about changing the reason that you wake up in the morning. And if you now wake up when you have to wake up, and think about the energy, by the way, that you're starting the day with. When the alarm clock goes off, that's life's first gift to you every single day. That's the gift. The alarm clock goes off, and you either have the choice to I'm going to wake up and I'm going to become a better version of who I am at the moment I'm waking up. I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, I'm going to take myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to the next level this morning so that I can become a stronger version of who I was when I went to sleep last night and create a better day, right? You either wake up with that or you wake up and do what most people do, which is you hit the snooze button, and think about the energy, the message you're sending to your subconscious mind and to the universe, right? Saying, I know I say I want an extraordinary life, but not as bad as I want to lay here unconscious for 9 more minutes. And you're literally starting the day with procrastination, right? You're literally starting the day with a lack of self-discipline, saying, I know I was intended to get out of bed at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever it is, right? But I don't have the willpower. I don't have the discipline to do that. So we're going to shift that. Before we do, I want to share with you guys a little bit about my background and my story, and not from a narcissistic point of view, but there's just some experiences that I went through that what I call my 2 rock bottoms that I think will be really powerful for all of us to everybody to relate to, because we've all been at those points in our lives where it felt like rock bottom, right? And a rock bottom is that time where you didn't think that life could get much worse. Well, going back to when I was 15 years old, this is a picture of me on the radio with my own radio show. At age 15, living the dream. And my dream when I was 15, I started DJing school dances, and my dream was to be a nationally syndicated radio disc jockey. I didn't think it would happen until I was, probably at least in college. And somehow the local radio station manager heard that I was a DJ, called me up one day, said, Hal, you want to interview, you want to go, I'm looking for a high school student to host the radio show every week. And I was stoked. I was like, oh my gosh, that's my dream, yeah, right? So I go down, I interview, I get the job, and right as I'm leaving the station manager, I remember, I can picture this, Larry Gamble, he says, Hal, one more thing. Make sure you think of what is known as your on-air moniker. He said that's a fancy way for saying your nickname that you're going to use on the air. Make sure you think of that by next week when you have your first radio show. And I walk out the front door, and I head out to the car, which my mom is driving, by the way, right? I'm 15 years old, so I'm not driving yet. Mom is driving, and I get in the car, and I went from being super excited to really kind of stressed out, going, what in the heck am I going to call myself, right? I'm like, I don't have a nickname. And so I get in, and my mom goes, sweetie, are you ready? What happened? Did you get the job? I said, yeah, Mom, but they want me to have a cool nickname, and you guys named me Hal. That's like the dorkiest name ever. What am I supposed to do with that? And she goes, sweetie, that's not a dorky name. I can help you think of a cool nickname. I said, okay, Mom, this should be good. Well, what's it going to be? She goes, well, just rhyme it with Hal. Be like Hal, my pal, or your pal, Hal. Or she goes, I know, make it cool. Use slang. Be yo, pal, Hal. I said, Mom, you're such a dork. I will never be yo, pal, Hal. And if you look at your screen, I think there's 2 lessons from this slide, right? Number 1, Mom is always right, yes or yes. And number 2 is I think that we all need to be more open-minded. I think we all need to go into every day seeking to learn something from every person that we meet. And that's a lesson that I learned when I was 19 years old. I was a cocky sales guy. I had just started selling Cutco. 10 days into the career, I had sold more Cutco than the 500,000 sales reps that came before me. In the 50-year history of the company. And I was like, I thought I was the man. I thought I knew it all, right? 19 years old, totally cocky. And my manager, Jesse, who was the best manager in the history of the company, he said, Hal, stop being such a know-it-all, man. He goes, you've got to have the attitude that every person you meet, there's something you can gain, right? There's something, they've had different life experiences. There's something that they can teach you, but not if you're closed-minded and you think you have it all figured out. So ever since then, and I'm not perfect at it, but ever since then, I really try to engage every day with my kids, with my wife, with, when I meet people, the bank teller, I try to always be inquisitive and ask questions and really try to learn something from everything and from every person that I meet. So just a little tangent lesson for everybody to share. Now, quick question, and this is going to lead into the most difficult, well, one of the most difficult times in my life. The question is, does everything happen for a reason? And think about that for a second. I want you to really think about, do you believe that or do you not believe that, or are you somewhere in the middle? And usually when I'm giving a speech, whether I'm speaking to a sales organization or a bunch of real estate agents or mortgage professionals or high school or college students, it doesn't matter. I always rate, I say, hey, raise your hand if you believe this, that everything happens for a reason. And usually about 50 to 60% of the hands go up. Then I say, okay, thank you very much. Now raise your hand if you do not believe this or you're not really sure if you buy into it. And then the other, the remaining hands go up. And here's a distinction that I think we can all buy into. We can all come to agreement on this. And this is one that really serves us when we're in the midst of adversity. As some of you, either you've gone through adversity in your life, we all have, you're going through adversity right now, or adversity is coming your way, right? Like, that's one thing, it's how we respond that matters. I'm telling you, there's rough times ahead. I don't care who you are, right? I'm not Mr. Rose-colored glasses, positive thinking everything's going to be perfect. You and I both have some of those difficult times in our lives coming up and ahead, and those are the things that are going to make us stronger. So here's the distinction. Everything happens for a reason, and this is my belief. I'm not telling you this is a fact. Everything happens for a reason, but it is our responsibility to choose the reasons. And that's the distinction. Most people think that the reasons for the occurrences and the tragedies and the obstacles in our life, that they happen to them, and that people go through life thinking they got to figure out why this happened. And you ever played the victim card? We've all done that, where you go, God, why did this happen? I don't deserve this. I'm a good person, right? And you're trying to figure out why it happened to you. Well, the reality is, it's our responsibility to choose the reasons. They're not predetermined, right? You don't go through life and search and go, I got to figure out why this horrible things have happened to me because I'm a good person. I don't deserve it. No. Every experience, please listen closely because I think this is really important for all of us to really adopt this. In fact, this is a quote that I have in my office. Every experience is an asset. Every experience, good or bad, is an asset if we choose to see it that way. So everything happens for a reason, but we got to choose the reasons that empower us and that are about serving other people, right? If we can take our adversity and turn it to an advantage by helping other people get through their adversity, then those experiences are always assets for us and everybody that we know. All right, I'm going to share with you guys my first rock bottom. This happened when I was 20 years old. I had been in sales for a year and a half. As one of the top sales reps, I was asked to give a speech at a conference. After the speech, I got into my brand new Ford Mustang. I got on the freeway. I set my cruise control at 70 miles an hour. I had a 2-hour drive ahead of me. That was the last memory that I have for the next 2 weeks of my life, is me getting on the freeway. I saw my best friend Jeremy in the rearview mirror, got stuck at the red light, and I set my cruise control. And everything else I'm going to share with you right now, all these pictures that I'm going to show with you, I only know this story really from eyewitnesses at the scene of the accident, from nurses, from hospital records, from police records, etc. At approximately 11:36 p.m., a drunk driver left a bar after drinking 2 beers. You might call him a buzzed driver, right? 2 beers. He was tired, he was buzzed, he left, and he got on the freeway heading the wrong direction. At 11:36 p.m., our cars collided head-on at 80 miles an hour, and this is a picture of my car if you look at your screen. And if you look at the right side of the car, it's actually, if you're looking at it, it's your right side. It looks like it's missing about 1/3 of the car. Well, that was actually because once my car hit the drunk driver, it bounced off the drunk driver, and a second vehicle ran into my door at 70 miles an hour. So the car, none of it's missing. The part that you see that looks like it's gone was actually crushed into the left side of my body. And immediately, literally in an instant, I broke 11 bones up and down the left side of my body. And this is the part where I'm going to share with you the injuries because some people are very curious. They want to know. If you're the kind of person that you're like, oh, I can't handle hearing what broke and, and blood and it does not for me. There's a part where you want to hit the mute button or plug your ears for like 30 seconds. I'm just going to run through this real quick. So here's the injuries that I sustained. First, from the side impact, my femur, the biggest bone in the human body, broke in half, and 1/2 of the bone actually came out the side of my thigh. My pelvis was crushed between the door and the center console, and it fractured in 3 separate places. My humerus bone, the biggest bone, behind my bicep in the arm, snapped in half, and 1/2 speared out behind my elbow. My elbow was crushed. The bones were just smashed, all rebuilt in metal. I've got metal rods in my leg, my arm, my elbow. I severed the nerve in my left arm. My left eye, all the bones that support my eye socket were destroyed so bad, somehow leaving my eye from, the doctors thought I'd be blind. I somehow have perfect vision in my eye, but it's all rebuilt in titanium. My eye socket is made of titanium now. My ear was almost completely severed, hanging on by about 1/2 inch, and the ceiling buckled and it sliced my head open into a V. And immediately bleeding from head to toe, broken bones and all, ruptured spleen, punctured lung, I slipped into a coma. And I'm very grateful for that because I couldn't imagine being awake for this experience. If you look at the next slide, this gives you a visual of what the car looked like. This is after the roof was torn off by the jaws of life. The fire department had to tear the roof off to get me out of the car. And you'll see this is what it looked like inside, looking from the ceiling down. You see where my femur was smashed between the seat and the door. You'll see where the center console is, kind of pushed over to the side. That's where my pelvis broke in 3 places. This is what the car looked like. And it took them 50 minutes, almost an hour, to cut me out of the car using the jaws of life. And when they did, I had been losing blood for an hour, right? They couldn't get to my leg. I was just bleeding. And the car was actually really keeping me alive because it was smashed so tightly against the hole in my arm and the hole in my leg that it was keeping me alive. And when they finally pulled me out of the car, I had lost so much blood, and then I lost so much more in those moments that I actually died. And my heart stopped beating. I stopped breathing, and I was clinically dead on the side of the freeway. And from the reports by the paramedics, I was rushed onto the medevac helicopter. They immediately hooked me up to the defibrillators, to an IV, started pumping blood back in my body, and trying to perform CPR and revive me. And somewhere after approximately 6 minutes, my heart started to beat again, and they rushed me to the hospital. This is what it looks like a few days after the accident, and this is what my mom and dad had to see. And I really, I didn't have kids obviously at the time. I was 20 years old, and I didn't get it until I had my daughter 4 years ago, and now my son is 1 year old. But I didn't get it until I had kids. I was like, oh my God, what my parents went through! I can't even imagine driving to the hospital and finding your son in this condition. But that's me a few days after the accident. 11 broken bones. You can see permanent brain damage. 6 days in a coma. And I came out of the coma 6 days later, and it was to face really an unimaginable reality. The doctor said I would never walk again, and I did have permanent brain damage. My brain damage was so bad that in the hospital, I had no short-term memory. You could be in the hospital with me for an hour, go to lunch and come back, and I would speak to you as if I hadn't seen you in weeks. And here's a pretty powerful, I guess, anecdote, if you will, kind of a story from this time. The doctors called my parents in about a week after I came out of the coma. So I wasn't in much different shape. It was basically about a week and a half after this picture was taken. And they called my parents in, and they said, we're very concerned with Hal. Every time we see Hal, he is always smiling and laughing and joking with us and making us laugh. And they said, that's not normal. Right? Not normal for a 20-year-old kid that doesn't know that's been told he may never walk again, that has, that's bones are broken, he's going to be scarred for life. And we believe that he is in a state of delusion. We believe he's in denial and he's delusional. And they said this happens sometimes with accident victims where what happened to him is so difficult for him to embrace, to handle, that he has simply checked out of reality and he's living in la la land. And they said, we need to nip this in the bud now, because when he gets out of the hospital, right, there's it's not a controlled environment, and it could turn into him turning to drugs or alcohol or suicide when he finally has to face the pain of what happened to him. So we'd like you to talk to him now and find out how he's really feeling. Get to the bottom of this. Get him to admit it and talk about it and cry and feel the pain. And so, as you could imagine, my mom and dad took this very seriously, and my dad came in that afternoon, and I'm sitting in my hospital bed, legs up in a brace, arms in a brace, ear is sewn on, eye is sewn shut, and I'm watching television, and my dad comes in and he says, Hal, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, yeah, Dad, and he looked like he had been crying or was about to cry, and I could tell something was wrong, and I said, Dad, what's going on? He said, hey, look, I know that, when your friends are here and your visitors are here and everything, you guys are laughing and you're reminiscing and you're telling stories and jokes. And he said, and that's great. But he said, how are you really feeling about this? When there's no visitors and when the lights go out at night or when you're by yourself thinking, he said, how are you feeling? Are you scared? Are you sad? Are you angry? Talk to us. It's okay to feel these things. Are you depressed? What is it that you're feeling, that you're really feeling? Because it's important to talk about it. We gotta get through it. I thought about what my dad asked me. Am I sad? Am I angry? Am I depressed? And I looked at my dad and I smiled and I said, Dad, I thought you knew me better than that. I said, don't you look, you look really, really concerned. I said, I understand, but I live by the 5-minute rule. This is something I learned in my Cutco sales training, Dad, remember? And he said, why don't you remind me what it is? I said, it's simply that, when things don't go your way, it's okay to be negative sometimes, right? But not for more than 5 minutes. I said, I live by that rule where when something goes wrong, no matter how horribly wrong it is, I give myself 5 minutes to bitch, moan, complain, vent, punch a wall, curse, whatever it is. I literally set the timer on my phone for 5 minutes, or I look at the clock on the wall. I get 5 minutes. And after I bitch, moan, and complain, I get it out, and then I focus 100% of my energy on accepting whatever has now happened. It's no longer, I can't go back in time and change it, and I focus all my emotion and my attention on where I want to go and what I can do to get there. And I said, Dad, I learned this, when it came to sales adversity, like canceled orders, or no sales, or a horrible week of phoning, or whatever it was. I said, but I've been practicing it for 1.5 years, and I'm seeing that it's the same application to this horrific experience. I said, I can't change it. And by the way, everybody, those became the 3 words that changed my life. Can't change it. I said, I can't change it. So now whenever anything bad happens, I go, can't change it. And I don't even need 5 minutes now. I need 5 seconds. All I need is time to say the words can't change it. And I'm reminded that if I can't change it, I'm not going to put an ounce of energy into wishing that I could, because it's our wishing and wanting that we can change things that we can't change that creates our emotional pain. See, that's what I realize is all negative emotions that we experience are self-created unnecessarily, whether it's frustration or fear. And I started applying this, fast forward after the accident, I'd be in traffic, and I'd go, gosh, damn it, I'm so frustrated, right? And then I'd go, wait a minute, can't change it. Why would I choose to be frustrated for the next 30 minutes in traffic when I can spend the next 30 minutes in traffic being as grateful as I've ever been before? Literally as happy as I've ever been in my life. That's my choice. So I realized that this is arguably the single most freeing philosophy, is to learn how to accept the things that we can't change. And it takes practice, but those 3 words, can't change it. In fact, I'll get to that in a second. So here's what happened. I told my dad, I said, look, Dad, I've already decided there's only one of 2 possibilities here, and I'm okay with both of them. He said, okay, what are those? I said, number 1, the doctors are right and I'll never walk again. And if that's the case, I said, I've accepted that. I've already decided that I'll be the happiest person that anyone has ever met in a wheelchair. I said, what else would I be? Miserable in a wheelchair? No. So if I can't walk, okay, and I can't change that fact at any point, I will accept it, and I will be in a wheelchair, and I'll be the happiest person in a wheelchair. I said, the second possibility, though, Dad, is I will walk again. And I'm putting all of my faith and my energy and my visualization in me walking again until enough time has gone by where I'm walking or I'm proven absolutely it's not going to happen. And then at which time I will shift and I will accept it. I said, but either way, you and Mom have nothing to worry about. I said, I don't want you to worry about me. I'm going to be fine. There's either way, right? I've already hit my rock bottom. It can't get worse. I'm good. And 3 weeks later, I'm sorry, 1 week later, 3 weeks after the night of the crash, but 1 week after I had this conversation with my dad, and I let him know, Dad, I'm really okay. And that the doctors, they were wrong. See, they actually were 180 degrees incorrect on their diagnosis of my mental and emotional condition. They thought I was delusionally happy because I couldn't accept what had happened to me. And what they didn't realize is that I was genuinely happy because I had unconditionally accepted what had happened to me. And for every single person on this call, arguably that's the greatest lesson you can walk away with here, is that, you know what? If I simply live in a state of unconditional acceptance for all of my circumstances as they occur, of course, you intentionally work to create the circumstances that you want in your life, but while you simultaneously accept everything that's out of your control, right? If a deal cancels, it canceled. You can't change it, right? If a house falls out of escrow, right, and it's out of escrow and there's nothing you can do to change it at that moment, you accept it as it is and you focus on what's in your control. And so 3 weeks after the crash, after my bones broke, and a week after I told my dad, Dad, I'm putting all my energy into believing that I'm going to walk again, this picture was taken. If you look at your screen, I took my first step a week after the doctor said I would never walk again. And the way that it happened is the doctors actually came in with routine x-rays that night, and they said, Hal, they sat me down with my parents, and they said, we can't even really explain this, how this is happening, but your body is healing at, I don't know if they use the word miraculous or probably a technical term, but, basically at an incredible rate, and we're actually going to let you take your first step in therapy tomorrow. So this was the night before this picture was taken. They said, it went from you're never going to walk again to somehow you're going to walk 3 weeks after this crash happened. And this was my first step. I got back to work. I got out of the hospital 4 weeks after I took my first step. So 4 weeks after this picture was taken, I got out of the hospital. And a week later, against doctor's orders, I begged my parents to drive me around because my license was revoked because of my brain damage. I didn't have a license for 6 months. So I had to beg parents and friends to drive me to appointments. I competed in a sales competition like a week after I got out of the hospital. And I think I took 4th place out of 500 sales reps. And I was like, limping on stage with a cane and all of this stuff. But it really taught me that, there really are no limits to what we can accomplish except for the limits that we put on ourselves. And when we choose to kind of think in alignment with anything is possible for us and create a vision every week, every month, every year for our life, every day for how we can really take ourselves to levels that we've never been before. That to me is the way to live, right? Oprah says the greatest adventure you can take is living the life of your dreams. I think the greatest adventure you can take is just to always become more than you are when you woke up that morning, right? And that's what the miracle morning is, right? Become more than you were when the alarm clock went off. And if you do that every day, right, in order to become someone who achieves level 10 success, you got to become a level 10 person, right? That's how you should start every day, is dedicating time to exactly that. And these are the 3 life-changing words that I mentioned. This is actually a wristband I used to wear for like 2 years, and can't change it. And if you want these wristbands, they're online at cantchangeit.com. All the money goes to charity, so I'm not making a bunch of money on them or anything. But I would be in traffic, like I said, and I would get frustrated, and then I would see that on my wrist and go, oh yeah, I can't change it. What's the point in getting frustrated? Now, this next picture I'll share with you very quickly. This put me in tears. A college student, 19 years old, saw me speak in Canada a couple years ago, and she emailed me this a week later and said, Hal, when you taught us about accepting the things that we can't change and the can't change it philosophy, she said, I have to tell you, yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of my father's death. My dad died at age 37, way too young. And she said, I've spent the last 10 years feeling like a victim because I lost my dad at such a young age, feeling like I didn't want to live, feeling like it wasn't fair. And she said, I've been suicidal multiple times. Well, for the last week, for the first time in 10 years, the last week, I've had freedom from all of that. Every time I think about my dad, I start to get sad. I go, wait a minute, I can't change it. And I've realized that it's not my dad's death that causes me this emotional turmoil and this suffering. It's the fact that I was never willing until now to completely be at peace with his death and accept that he's not coming back. So there's no point in wishing that he was. She said, so yesterday on the 10-year anniversary of his death, I got those words, can't change it, tattooed in my wrist permanently as a reminder that my memory of my dad will never be one that causes pain, but only one that causes gratitude and causes me to feel feelings of peace and of love and gratitude for who he was in my life. And, I was just blown away by that, as you can imagine. I was in tears just going, wow, like those 3 words are just extraordinarily powerful. And to wrap this up, and then we're going to get into the miracle morning, these are what I call the ABCs of taking life head on. And these are such important lessons for us to really get the most out of each day that I want to just sum them up very quickly. A is for accept all things you can't change. We just talked extensively about that. B is for be grateful for everything. And when I say grateful for everything, I'm talking about, we know people that complain a lot, and often those people justify their complaining by saying, I'm not negative, I'm just realistic, right? That, pardon my French, but that's bullshit. Like, how is it more realistic to focus on and talk about and dwell on the things that are negative that make us feel, that whether it's in the economy or the government or our life or our business, right? How is it any more realistic to be the guy that's always complaining about the things that are negative versus the guy or the girl that's always focused on the things that that you're excited about, the possibilities, the solutions versus the problems, right? Both of those are equally realistic, but which you choose to focus on dramatically impacts the quality of your life. So really focus on the things that you're grateful for every day, and acknowledge the other things, the things that are negative, right? Deal with those, but you don't need to dwell on those, right? That's my philosophy. Deal with the negative, don't dwell on the negative. And finally, create daily progress towards becoming the person you need to be to create your vision. Notice I did not say create daily progress towards creating your vision. That goes without saying. But the piece that most people leave out is dedicating time each day to becoming the person that you need to be to create your vision. And by the way, I will say this. You've got to take yourself to the next level before you can take your sales to the next level. I'll say that again. And I'll say it the other way around. If you want to take your sales to the next level, you first got to make it a priority every day to take yourself to the next level. And that's what we're going to talk about how to do. I'll tell you, I'll just open this up real quick with what I call my second rock bottom, surprisingly worse than the first. When the U.S. economy crashed, most of you can relate to what I'm about to share with you. When the U.S. economy crashed in 2008, my business failed. I lost my house, right? I lost my house to the bank because I couldn't pay my mortgage. In fact, in 6 months, I had to live on credit cards. I charged $52,000 on credit cards in 6 months. As a result of so much fear and so much uncertainty, first of all, I stopped exercising completely because I woke up in the morning and I was so afraid of losing everything that I just worked until I couldn't work anymore at night, maybe vegged out in front of the TV for an hour, and then I fell asleep and woke up, hit the snooze button a few times, and rinse and repeat, did the same thing. Well, 6 months of this also caused me to become deeply depressed for the first time in my life. I never really knew what depression was like, to the point where I was feeling suicidal. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to face my life. In fact, ironically, the only escape from life, from my for me, what was a horrible reality of just downward spiral, it was the bed, right? Going to bed at night was the only illusion for me of escape, right? I got to escape my problems for 6 to 8 hours, and then I had to face them all over again. So it got worse and worse and worse. And here's the thing. I was a success coach, so I didn't want to tell anybody until my wife finally said, "Sweetie, I love you, but what you're doing is not working. You've got to reach out. You've got to get advice. Call your friend John. John is a brilliant, business-savvy man. He can help you turn this around. He won't judge you. He loves you. He's not going to tell people that you're failing." Because that was my fear. I'm like, I'm a success coach, right? What do I do? Call my, reach out and go, "Hey guys, I'm failing miserably. I really need more clients. Can you help me?" So I call my friend John. John gives me advice. He says, "Hal, you need to go for a run every day and focus on solving your problems." I said, "John, I hate running. I don't need to run. I need business advice from you." He said, "Hal, you're a smart guy, but if you're not getting out the door every day, if you're not getting oxygen to your brain, and you're not allowing yourself to think clearer and feel better, you're not going to make better decisions, and you're going to stay where you are." So reluctantly, the next morning I went for a run, and on that run I heard a quote that changed my entire life. And that quote, you may have heard it before. I had heard it multiple times, but it didn't resonate with me the way that it did in this moment. And here's the quote from Jim Rowan: "Your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person you become." And here's what I realized. As I've already kind of mentioned, the focus we need to have on becoming the person that can easily attract, create, and sustain the levels of health, relationship, love, fitness, finance, everything that we want in our lives, becoming that person. I realized in that moment, I'm not dedicating time to becoming the person that I need to be to create the success I want. And so I ran home with a new level of awareness. I've got to freaking wake up every day, and I've got to spend the first hour of my day, even though I'm not a morning person. I hated waking up in the morning. I was that guy that hit the snooze button 3 times and waited till the last minute. I thought, I've got to dedicate time to my personal development every morning. And not just any personal development. My philosophy was, I've got to Google what are the best personal development practices, and I've got to do all of them. I've got to create the most extraordinary personal development routine known to man, so that I can quickly take my life and my business, my income, every level to the next level. And here's what I came up with. Now, it wasn't originally this fancy acronym. It was 6 practices that later, when I was writing the book, with the help of a thesaurus, because my vocabulary is not that impressive, with the help of a thesaurus, these 6 practices became the lifesavers, and this acronym makes it easy to remember what they are. The S, sorry, it's not for sleep, guys. Some of you guys are like, oh, I hope the first S in Savers is for sleep. By the way, I call these the lifesavers because these are the 6 practices that saved me from missing out on living the life that I really wanted, really my full potential, not just in my business, but as you guys are going to hear, this changed my life in every way you could imagine, faster than I ever thought possible, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, you name it. So the first S is for silence. Rather than starting your day like most people do, which is with chaos, it's about, so much research has been done to show that meditation in and of itself, prayer is another example. Your period of silence can be prayer, but just meditation specifically, right? This is an example of how if you Google CEOs that meditate, Fortune 500 CEOs that meditate, you'll see dozens of articles on all these highly successful individuals that swear by meditation. It goes back to improving cognitive function, mental clarity. It lowers stress. It essentially allows you, it literally improves your ability to focus. One of the greatest ways that I've used to cure, if you will, or manage my ADHD is through daily meditation. So the first practice was silence. The second practice was affirmations. Affirmations, written statements that are designed to reprogram your subconscious mind with the mindset and the beliefs that you need to take your life business to levels beyond what you've ever even imagined were possible. Because we all suffer from rear view mirror syndrome, don't we? Where we look in the rear view mirror at a subconscious level and we think, who I've been is who I am. But that's bullshit. Who you are is whoever you choose to be. And I'm telling you, the power of affirmations is creating a vision for who you are based on your potential, not based on your past. By reading them every day, you literally program your subconscious mind to believe and start to embody who you know you can become. The V is for visualization. I'll give you guys a quick advanced tip on this. Experts teach visualization, I believe, in the wrong, or they only teach it, I won't say it's wrong, but it's only half the battle. They teach you to visualize the end result so that you can believe that it's possible. So it can go from a vague idea in your head, by the way, a vague idea that's often cloaked in fear. Think about that, right? When you're visualizing like these grand possibilities, that vision, it's often your ideas for what you really want, your desires are cloaked in fear or insecurity. So when you visualize, you take that vague idea that's cloaked in fear that's bouncing around in your head, and you create the fear fades away, and you create a real vision of what's possible. So you can believe it, you increase your desire to make it a reality, and that's the first half of visualization. The second half of visualization, though, and this is the most important half, and it's rarely taught. You've got to visualize yourself today. You got to bring the vision back from the long term and see yourself doing today whatever is necessary to make that vision a reality. The E is for exercise, right? Every day, getting oxygen and blood to your brain. Not at the end of the day. Is it okay to exercise in the afternoon or evening? Absolutely. But are you missing out on the benefits of increased, goes back to the cognitive function, the mental clarity, by getting more oxygen to your brain, blood to your brain, releasing the endorphins that exercise releases, right? The benefits of morning exercise are irrefutable. The R is for reading. I'm not talking about Harry Potter or 50 Shades of Grey, right? But that's one of the, we all know that. That's not rocket science. By the way, let me just say this. When I first came up with this list of 6, I was actually disappointed at first because I had heard of all of these. In fact, I had even attempted most of them. At first, I almost dismissed this because I thought, I already, I was looking for like a silver bullet magic pill. You know what I mean? We're always looking for the new cutting edge app that can solve our problems, right? And when these were so fundamental, and at first I almost dismissed it, and then I realized what you might be realizing right now, which is I don't do any of these every day, let alone all of them. And I thought highly successful people swear by any one of these, let alone all of them. What would happen if I did all of them? And the final S is for scribing, which is just a fancy word for writing, which is essentially the journaling process, right? One of the most effective ways, not just to capture your life. Like that to me is the least important part of journaling. It's a good part of it, but for me, it's about clarifying. Every day first I answer, and you can jot this down. Here's my journaling process. What am I grateful for, right? What are 3 things I'm grateful for, right? Put myself in that abundant mindset first thing. And then the most important part, I believe, of journaling is I say, what 3 things do I need to do to make today great? What 3 things do I need to do to make today great? So I woke up the next morning, and I did all 6 of these practices. And by 6 a.m., I honestly can tell you that I don't ever remember feeling so inspired, so empowered, so clear, so at peace with my problems. I felt on top of the world, but remember, my life was still a mess. My bank account balance was still negative. My credit card was still at 50 grand. I was still in the midst of losing my house. My body was still in the worst shape it had ever been. Yet, that morning was a defining moment in my life because I realized the way I feel right now at 6 a.m., like I could take on the world, like I'm going to transform my life and my business. I feel like I've got that power within me again for the first time in 6 months. I realized this feeling, this state of mind, this state of being is not dependent on anything in my outer world. I just created this at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I realized this is a gift I can give myself every day. And theoretically, I thought this could be the one thing that changes everything. This could be the one thing that turns everything around. But I didn't know for sure it was a theory. Well, fast forward, within 2 months of doing what is now known as the Miracle Morning, I had doubled my income. My depression, by the way, was gone like that day. It still showed its head a little bit over the next couple of months, but for the most part, it was gone. And even if it showed up again, every day I hit the reset button when I went to bed that night because I knew I was waking up not to my problems, but to really my miracle morning. And I had also doubled my income. My depression was gone. And maybe, I don't know if this is most importantly, but physically I went from being in the worst shape of my life to training for a 52-mile ultra marathon. And I had never run more than a mile. Well, 5 months later, after 5 months of training during my Miracle Morning, I ran 52 miles in one day to raise money for charity. And because of that, it happened so fast that I started calling it my Miracle Morning. And my Miracle Morning wasn't something that was going to be a book. It was for me. And then one of my coaching clients one day said, Hal, do you have a morning routine? I kept hearing about the importance of a morning routine. And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do have a morning routine, right? And I was excited to tell her. Well, she said, I'm not a morning person, but a week later we get on the phone and she goes, Hal, you were right. This has totally changed my life. And you guys, I'm just going to fast forward. We're getting toward the end. I wanted to give Dan a chance to say a couple things, but you'll see this quote from Evan Pagan on the screen, and this is actually a quote. He was interviewed by Tony Robbins, and if you don't know who Evan Pagan is, Evan Pagan runs a $20 to $25 million a year online training company for entrepreneurs. And Tony Robbins was interviewing Evan. It was like a 90-minute interview, and he asked him at the end of the interview, he goes, Evan, you've taught so much. You're like listening to you is like drinking from a fire hose. So much value. He said, if you could sum it all up and give people the single most important thing they could do right now to take the next step toward improving their business, their life, whatever it is that they want, what would that be? And he said, create a morning success ritual. That was his number one key. This is a guy that does $25 million a year. His number one key to take your business and life to the next level, you're looking at it right here. He said your first ritual that you do each day is your highest leverage ritual by far because it sets your mindset and the context for the rest of your day. So I'm going to wrap up with this, and then I'll turn it over to Dan Keller. I would love to stay connected, right? This is a very short time we have together. If you want to contact me directly about speaking at your company, your organization, your team, or coaching or anything, go to my website, halelrod.com. You can go to HALELROD, halelrod.com, and click on the contact form. That will come directly to me through my assistant. If you want to join the Miracle Morning community on Facebook, I'm telling you, this has become the most inspiring, accountable, supportive online communities I've ever seen. Search the Miracle Morning community on Facebook. Make sure you put the word community because there's a fan page on there, but it's not nearly as interactive. And you'll be blown away by the level of support and how interactive it is. And then of course, if you want to buy the book, you can buy it on Amazon. But last but not least, if you or someone you know, I almost to this group, I don't even know if this applies, but I always share this. If you, let's say you're not ready to buy the book, or let's say you're like I was in 2008, where for whatever reason you're in a financial tough spot, or you just had some major expenses, and you're literally like, Hal, I don't want to spend the $14 on a book right now. Like I don't have it, or I don't want to spend it. For anybody that wants to get started with the Miracle Morning, but you're not ready to buy the book on Amazon, you can go to miraclemorning.com. and you'll get the first few chapters for free. You'll get a 17-minute video training from me for free on the Miracle Morning, and you'll get a 60-minute in-depth audio training on the Miracle Morning, and that's all at miraclemorning.com. So Dave and or Dan, I will turn it over to you guys to wrap it up.
So Hal, first I just want to say a couple thoughts. First of all, that was an amazing story. You know, when you were telling your personal story, I mean, I actually, just got physically anxious, almost nauseous to hear what happened to you, and then to hear the wisdom that you shared around how to start the day right, start it strong, start it smart, and be more successful. I mean, it was just inspirational. I mean, I can't wait to listen to this call again as a recording, even share it with my family. So Dan, two thoughts. One, Dan, I'd like you to provide some closing actionable thoughts on how Mortgage Coach members can take action on this. Also, if anybody wants, whether you're tight on money or just the first to post, first 5 people that provide a comment on what your big takeaway was in the notes, I'll buy your book and figure out how to get it to you, because I just think it's a great gift. So first 5 books of people that comment on our Facebook page, say something positive, we'll message you back to get your address, and we'll get out 5 books to Mortgage Coach members. So Dan, I'll let you provide some closing thoughts. Go ahead, my man.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Well, for Mortgage Coach, tribe members, the first thing that I would say is, obviously what I've done in order to take yourself to the next level, take your sales and take your business to the next level, you got to take yourself to the next level. And so I would encourage all the Mortgage Coach members, tribe members, to invest in yourselves. Like Hal said, what is it, $14, $20? Buy the book, read the book. But what you're going to find in that book is exactly what I found in following Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Michael Mayer, some of these guys that I've looked to for leadership advice and success principles, is they all kind of talk about some common things. One of the most common things that I kept hearing come up with Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn, and even with Michael Mayer, and then all of a sudden I read Miracle Morning, that silly affirmation word, and I always blew it off. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to stand in front of a mirror and talk to myself. My wife will make fun of me, and just whatever. I'm telling you, it worked. And the first time, I blew off Zig Ziglar, I guess, Jim Rohn, even Michael Mayer. The first time I ever did affirmations was after reading The Miracle Morning. So Hal, kudos there, man. You broke through where a couple of big dogs couldn't. But
nice, dude. I appreciate that.
But they work. It works. And when you talk to yourself and when you do some of the things that Hal talks about in the book, it certainly, I don't think there's any better way to start your day. So that's the first my first advice. And then the second part of it, this is kind of advanced, and this worked for me. When I first started the Miracle Morning, and when I talked to realtors and other loan officers about building and structuring a morning routine, it's okay because you're on this adrenaline high to do it. And a week goes by, and then, that doggone snooze alarm or that snooze button looks really sexy at 5 a.m. and you hit it. And so one of the big questions, how do you get up every single morning and carry out that routine? And one of the great things that I learned from Hal is that you tell yourself the night before that you're going to get up at 5 a.m., that 6-7 hours, whatever, is plenty of sleep for me to crush the day tomorrow. And I'm telling you, that is powerful. That worked for me a couple of times. I had to go to bed fairly late, and I still had my alarm clock set at 5 o'clock, and I sat on the side of my bed, and I said, you know what, 4.5 hours is plenty of sleep for me to carry out what I need to do tomorrow. And it's amazing. When that alarm clock went off at 5 a.m., jumped out of bed. So that's kind of an advanced tip, but those are 2 takeaways that I have. And, man, I just want to say it was an honor being on the call with you again, Hal, today. You got me jacked up to go win another day.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that very much, man. Thanks for the kind words.
Yep. Yeah, great kind words, guys. So love it. If you can't change it, make the best of it. You can't change yesterday. You can't change whether you were executing on plan, but you can change tomorrow. And here at Mortgage Coach, every Tuesday we're doing these 9 o'clock calls to deliver inspiration, best practices, success strategies from leaders. This Thursday and every Thursday at 9 o'clock, it's all about getting tactical. Fridays for beginners. So we want to help you deliver an amazing mortgage experience. We're providing you with the technology to do that. And hey, Hal just gave you some great ways to be, I loved what you said, focus on being the person you need to be successful. So Hal, I mean, this was a huge gift. I hope anybody that's a sales manager on this call, you'll champion Hal as a keynote speaker at one of your upcoming sales rallies. And he's told you a couple ways to connect with him on his website, through Facebook. Dan, thanks for being a great leader in our community, introducing me to the people that have that are providing more leadership in the mortgage coach community. And again, everybody, go USA. Remember to watch the game today at 1 o'clock, and remember to engage as a community. We are the industry's best mortgage professionals. I believe that with all my heart. And let's help each other out, and let's connect and communicate. Hal, any final words before we wrap up today's call?
Last thing I'll say, guys, is if you're not a morning person, I forgot to mention that probably the most important part of the book for you that are not morning people, and you're like, I don't know if I could do it, is there's a whole chapter that teaches you how to make waking up in the morning easier than it's ever been before. So be sure to check that out. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys could all be anywhere doing anything, and this is my passion.